Good evening. We'd like to welcome everybody to the Place 3 Liberty Hill ISD School Board Forum. We have with us tonight 3 of the 4 candidates for that place. We have Antonio Canas, Michael Ferguson, and Steve Messina joining us this evening. We're going to go through an opportunity for them to introduce themselves, a number of questions for each of the candidates, and then some closing remarks. And by the luck of the draw, Mr. Canas is going to give us his opening statement first. So you have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody, my fellow Texans and my fellow Panthers. As you guys know, my name is Antonio Canas. I was running last cycle, and I'm running again because I'm really passionate about our community, and I'm passionate about helping the community. As you know, I retired from the military after 24 years. My wife is a RN, registered nurse that works at Seton Medical Center. I have 3 kids, 2 in intermediate, and then 1 in high school. Our family was fortunately to come back to Texas after my retirement, and it has given me the opportunity to be a more productive citizen by being more engaged, helping the community. I have done multiple things, part of the long-range planning. I'm part of the PAC for the bond that is coming up. So I'm really excited about this election. It looks like a lot of people are, like myself. Liberty Hills is growing rapidly. Right now it's number 6 in the state. And it's about production of houses is about 7,000, and it's going to keep going. What that means is going to be more schools are going to have to be produced, and more teachers, and most important for me, is going to be counselors. Okay, that's going to be the number 1 priority if I get elected, to make sure that every student or every school at least has 2 counselors. Teachers have been going through a lot through this virtual training, and I want to ensure that mental health is not falling off the waistline. Because as a military vet that just recently retired, PTSD is a thing. And a lot of kids are going to be suffering from it, as multiple soldiers are doing. And that needs to be prepared for. We need to be engaged and ready for it because the teachers are not ready for that. And that's my number 1 priority if I get elected as a board of trustee.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ferguson, please take a minute to introduce yourself to the voters.
Good evening, everyone. I would first like to start off by thanking the Independent for hosting the forum, and then also thank everybody that's going to be viewing this later for tuning in. You are basically one of the biggest things that I wanted to focus on is your interest in the involvement of the Liberty Hill School Board. I apologize. My name is Michael Ferguson. My wife is Chrissy. We have 2 beautiful kids in Rancho Siena Elementary School. My choice to run was prompted in many discussions with friends, individuals in the community, and the passion that I have for our children. I decided to run this year because while serving on the school bond committee, I recognize the continued growth we're experiencing and could potentially change our culture that we currently have and share and we love in Liberty Hill. As our district continues to grow, we need to make sure we continue to focus on operation excellence, transparency, accountability, engage our parents, and the voice of the students, educators, and taxpayers. The current and past school board has done an outstanding job, and I want to make sure I can help continue to improve our students' opportunity to learn, lead, and succeed in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Messina, you have a minute to introduce yourself to the voters.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Steve Messina. My wife Lisa and I have lived in Liberty Hill coming up on 18 years. I've been in Texas for a little over 15 years. We have 2 children, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. The 6-year-old attends the Hill right now, and the 3-year-old will in a couple of years. And we moved to Liberty Hill for the community involvement that is experienced here. We love the community. We love being involved in the community. I currently sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city, and I do that because I want to be involved. In my past life, I spent a lot of time in customer service and logistics, and what I see happening in Liberty Hill with the growth that we're experiencing is that we're going to need to do a lot of work to make sure that we maintain the level of education that we have here. The current board has done a tremendous job with growing this district, and I feel like my background and experience in service and in logistics can help this community grow, help the school district grow while maintaining equity among all the schools, so all of our children have the same opportunity regardless of where they are within the district. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. So we're going to go through a series of questions, and each of you will have an opportunity, 90 seconds, to respond to that question. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Ferguson, with the first question. The question is, do you support the bond package on the May 1st ballot? Why or why not? How will you, as a member of the board, work to monitor the bond expenditures going forward should the measure pass?
That's a great question, and I'm glad to get the jitters out of the way because that's intense. So I'm a big advocate of our bond. I served on the bond committee. I'm out right now promoting the bond, talking to our voters. There's a lot of voter concern. There's a lot of discussions around the tax piece. As a school board member, my job is to make sure that we efficiently execute where that money is going and make sure we're allocating it in the proper places that we've told the voters and the taxpayers where we're going to put that money. And ultimately, is just get out, educating, and help talking through it, because really what we've learned is that there's just a lot of people out there right now that don't understand it. They don't understand the need for it. They don't understand the growth that we're experiencing, and they don't realize that without that bond, we're going to struggle. We're going to be in mobile minis. We're not going to be able to give our students the infrastructure and the resources they need to be able to excel and have the education that they deserve.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Messina, same question. Do you support the bond package on the May 1st ballot? Why or why not? How will you, as a member of the board, work to monitor the bond expenditures going forward should the measure pass?
I do support the bond package. I think it's important with the growth that we're experiencing here in Liberty Hill that we make sure that our education standards that we've set and that a lot of us have moved here to experience are maintained. And the only way to do that with the growth that we're experiencing is to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure for doing so. As far as monitoring how that bond money is spent and where it goes, and we have a responsibility to the community to do with that money what we said we're going to do with that money. And on the flip side, if our growth patterns change and we don't need to use that money, to make sure that we redeploy that money appropriately or return it to the citizens, to the taxpayers. It's very important that we keep tight books and we grow this community and we grow the schools so that everybody has the same opportunity, but we don't need to spend money. We don't need to spend more money than necessary. So monitoring that's going to be extremely important for the entire board, including myself.
All right, thank you, Mr. Messina. Mr. Canas, the same question. Do you support the bond package on the May 1st ballot? Why or why not? How will you, as a member of the board, work to monitor the bond expenditures going forward should the measure pass?
As Michael said, we were both part of that long-range planning committee where we did an intensive analysis about this bond. It was about 64 of us. They break us down to a couple of groups of 5 or 6 to analyze, and the intent was to assess, review, study, and convene, because we knew this was a hot topic. As many of the community here, I didn't know what a bond was until I got there, and I had to get a definition of what a bond. And I'm gonna read it for the audience out there. Bonds are approved by voters and later sold by a school district to lenders to pay for the cost of construction, acquisition, renovation, and equipment. A school bond is similar to a home mortgage, and this is critical to understand. It is a contract to repay borrowed money over time with a fixed rate and variable interest. I bought my home over here because of the interest rate. I bought my home over here because I wanted it to be in a good living area. And as many of us over here, that's the main reason we're here. So we need this bond. It's part of our investment that we're doing not for ourselves, but we're doing it for the community. In addition to that, it is going to be an investment for ourselves and for our future here. Who knows, eventually a university may come to Liberty Hill, and that we're going to be ready for that university to be here. I remember when I was in Killeen, when I moved in 1995, there was nothing in Killeen. Now it's the Texas A&M Satellite School there. So there's a lot of opportunity that could come out of this. When we develop future successful citizens, it benefits everybody. And that's what we're doing with this bond. We're developing our future persons, our kids, our families, and investing in ourselves for the future. That's the way I'm looking at it. I'm going to be part of it. I'm being heavily engaged in this bond. I've been promoting it. We just had a meeting this morning, and we'll be continue to have more meetings. I'm being the rodeo, passing out more flyers and making sure that people are educated, because the key is educating people. Like myself, I didn't know what a bond is. A lot of people have that thing in their mind saying, you know, it's a tax, but it's not. It's different. It's an investment. It's like a mortgage. You're purchasing your home, but it's a community home. That's the way I'm looking at it, and that's the way I'm selling it.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, on to the second question, and this question will go to you first, Mr. Messina. As Liberty Hill ISD grows, everyone in the community talks about maintaining the culture of the district. Can you define that culture and tell voters how you believe it could be preserved?
That's a great question. I think the culture here is community involvement, community engagement, and people looking out for each other. I think that transcends not just the school district, but the community as a whole. It's tough to maintain a culture as a town like this grows. It's growing very fast. There's people coming in from everywhere. So we won't always have the exact same culture we have today, but with good communication across the district, across the community, we can continue to get that word out. We can continue to get that feeling out. We can continue to support each other. And so the newcomers coming in here, while we're bringing different ideas and they're bringing different cultures, can feel the culture that we've created in Liberty Hill. And so our job as a school to maintain that is communication. We need to make sure that the communication that I receive, or that I feel like I'm receiving, which I think is excellent right now, is the communication that everybody's receiving. There's a lot of different means of communication today between social media, newspaper, traditional media, obviously word of mouth, and everybody receives that communication differently. And one of my goals, should I be elected to the board, is to make sure that we're using the right communication and we're using different means of communication so that we're reaching everybody in the community to get that message across.
All right, thank you. Mr. Canas, this is for you now. As Liberty Hill ISD grows, the community talks about maintaining the culture of the school district. Can you define that culture and tell voters how you believe it can be preserved?
Culture is built on traditions and ensuring that everybody abide by those traditions, mainly. I've been here almost a year, and the culture here is heavily involved in sports. I love football. The soccer female team made it to the finals, and I love that. The spirit of sports is very heavily involved in this community. As you all know, that's one of the biggest things fighting for is the stadium. But it is a thing that you can enhance. You can enhance a culture by bringing others into the family, bringing others from outside into the family, and learn to appreciate what this community is all about. And that will take a lot of the people that have been here for a while and the newers coming to an understanding of how to work together and making sure that we maintain the tradition of football here, which is big, the tradition of sports. And with that too, there's a lot of us, like military-wise, that are coming over, that are retiring here, coming over from other states, and we're doing it because we want that peaceful, kind of family-oriented environment that this kind of community is bringing. We see it in our little Facebook pages, the community, everywhere you see it, is very heavily engaged, and we want to maintain that with everybody, and that's the culture we want to maintain and follow. So.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ferguson, the same question. As Liberty Hill ISD grows, the community talks about maintaining the culture of the school district. Can you define that culture and tell voters how you believe it can be preserved?
Absolutely. This is probably hands down my favorite topic. One of the biggest reasons why I'm running for school board is the culture. And it starts with the community, followed by the families that make up this community and the teachers. My wife and I elected to come to Liberty Hill because we have teachers that are passionate, they're driven, they care about our kids. And when our kids are in a system that they feel cared for, they feel engaged, they want to, basically learn. They're a sponge they take in. Legacy is another big topic for me. I love the legacy that Liberty Hill broadcast and the pride that we have in the academics. Our academics are second to none, in my opinion, followed by our athletics, amazing athletics. The football team, the soccer team, all of them are phenomenal. So when it comes to culture and explaining that to people coming in and moving in, basically just setting them down and talking to them about where we're wanting to be, where we're wanting to go, where we're wanting to grow, and giving those students that opportunity to learn, lead, and succeed in anything that they are passionate about, whether it's the academics, whether it's the sports, whether it's the CTE programs. So ultimately for me, that culture is hands down the most important thing, and it's one of the things with change, with all change, things will evolve. It's up to the community, and it's up to the school board to make sure that culture stays rich and stays the same as it is today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, on to the third question, and this one goes to Mr. Canas first. How do you define the role of a school board member? Do you see that role as one that represents the community or the school district first?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I had the question asked by my fellow neighbor the other day. It's like, what does a school board member do? And plain and simple, we provide checks and balance. We are the voice of the community, check and balance to the superintendent, check and balance to the administrator. And we vote on stuff that in the budget, we vote on from an award ceremony to the bonds. That's the biggest portion. But in my opinion, it's a check and balance. We become the voice of the community. We get elected by the community. That's our main purpose. And ensuring that the superintendent and his administrator are not just forgetting or are not listening to the community. We are their voice. We are their representative. If they have a concern, we bring it up to him and say, no, you can't do that. You're not going to get support. So that's practically what, in my opinion, that's what we are. We're the voice of the community, 6 of us, representing the entire 7,000 or whatever number of persons that are here in the Liberty Hill community. That's the way I look at it.
All right. Mr. Ferguson, same question. How do you define the role of a school board member? Do you see that role as one that represents the community or school district first?
Great question. When I view the school board, I view it as a business. At the end of the day, we have loyalties to both. We need to listen to the community input, from the community concerns that they may have. We need to address those with the superintendent. Our job is to work with the superintendent. Our job is not to go police certain things that the superintendent is designed to police. We want to make sure that we help with the policies that are put in place that are recommended by the superintendent, and we support him, and we have checks and balances for that. We also want to make sure that we are financially secure and healthy, and make sure if the bond does pass that we make sure that everything that is spent in the proper mannerism. And ultimately, we have one employee at the end of the day that we are basically working with, and that is the superintendent, and making sure that we support him and help him with his policies and procedures that he puts in place, and then listening to the input from the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Messina, same question. How do you define the role of a school board member? Do you see that role as one that represents the community or the school district?
I think we're responsible to the community. We're elected by the community. We're here to make sure we listen to the community. We'll make sure we understand the voice of the community. But at the same time, we are running a business, as Michael said. There's a superintendent in place, and his job or her job is to make sure that the schools are following the processes and procedures that have been put in place. And so our job is to be responsible to the community while making sure that we're managing the superintendent who's responsible for all of the schools. I think it's very important that we're not necessarily, while we're responsible to the community, we're not necessarily taking actions on the community, but our job is to make sure that that communication makes it to the superintendent so that the school administration can handle those opportunities or issues as they arise.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Messina. All right, so the next question, we'll start with Mr. Ferguson. Tell us one thing that will improve Liberty Hill ISD and how you plan to make that happen.
Hands down, the easiest question I think we'll all answer is voting yes for the bond.
Yes.
I mean, without that bond, it's going to be a constant struggle. And I'll be honest with you, if I'm elected and the bond doesn't pass, we're going to have our hands full because we're going to go right back to the drawing board and we're going to have to basically start from scratch and put together a bond package that the community is willing to pass. And that's my biggest concern right now, is making sure people understand, they're educated, and they understand what the importance of that bond is, and that everybody out there votes yes for it so that we can give our children the opportunity that we want them to have to be able to be successful in life. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Messina, same question. Tell us one thing that you think will improve Liberty Hill ISD and how you plan to work to make that happen.
I have to echo Michael on this, and it's the passage of the bond. The bond is important with the growth that we're experiencing to make sure that we continue to provide the education that we've all moved here and come to expect, and that the community has come to expect. My job, should I be elected, when that bond passes, is to make sure that those funds are deployed appropriately and timely. Should the bond not pass, then my job is going to go back to square one, working to create a new bond package. And also along that way, both now and in the future, it's the communication. It's making sure, my job is making sure that people understand where the school district is heading, why they're heading that way, what the bond is needed for, how it's going to be used, why it's important, how we're going to continue to maintain the level of education that we've come to expect.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Canas, the same question. Tell us one thing that will improve Liberty Hill ISD and how you plan to work to make that happen.
First and foremost, I know the bond is going to pass, so I'm looking at that 300-meter target now. He said already, making sure that the money that is passed through this bond is spent accordingly to what we are agreeing upon. Making sure that we're keeping track, and if I know sometimes situations happen, but making sure that what we voted on is actually executed. That's going to be number one thing. Other thing is, foremost, I already said, counseling. I cannot emphasize that portion because I am a veteran. As multiple veterans, we suffer with PTSD, and that thing is real. And I want to ensure the students are provided that stuff. What I'm fearing is we will pass this bond, which it will pass. It's going to be the kids. Are we going to be coming up with the suicide rate up? Are we going to be doing with all these other mental issues? What are we doing about that? That's the portion that I am going to be concentrated if I'm elected, making sure that we're not forgetting about the mental. I think a nurse is professional enough to do the counseling part. I don't think a teacher is professional enough, doesn't have the training to be a counselor. We need those counselors. We need to prepare ourselves for that because it's not what if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to be happening. And are we ready for that? Are we ready for this students committing these suicides? Because it happens, and it's going to happen. But are we ready as a in the community, as a parent? Are we ready for it? And that's going to be my number one thing, making sure that we are ready for that kind of stuff. That's my thing.
All right, gentlemen, we've reached the point in this forum where you get to do your closing remarks and kind of give that final elevator speech to the voters. And we're going to start that with you, Mr. Messina. You have 90 seconds to tell the voters anything that you'd like to share with them.
Great. Well, thanks again, Mike, for hosting this. And I just want to say to the voters out there, my interest in this is 100% community involvement. I want to be involved in this community. I live here, I work here, my family's, just loves it here, and my responsibility to this community is to make sure that there's involvement. I'm super excited that there are so many candidates running for school board, as well running for city council, because that's what's important. It's the involvement. Should I be elected, my focus is the kids, the schools. My focus is making sure that we spend that bond money appropriately and efficiently. My focus is making sure that we're ready for the growth that we're experiencing, making sure that we're doing everything we can as we go from 5 elementary schools to 12 elementary schools and to 5 middle schools and 2 high schools, should it come to that, making sure we're doing everything we can that every student across all of the campuses has the same chance at an excellent education, and that nobody feels like they're getting passed over because they're going to one school versus another. I think it's really important that we maintain that community environment, that community spirit, and I think that can be done very well with good communication on all fronts to make sure that everybody's getting the message and everybody feels like they have a chance to speak or that their voice is being heard. So I'm here for the community and I'm looking forward to serving everybody. And thanks again for letting me speak, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Mr. Canas, your opportunity at closing remarks.
My fellow Panther family, if you're like me, I will be bringing to the table the military experience that I had over the 24 years, like I stated before. I will bring out the passion to do selfless service, to be there and to listen to you guys and to listen to your concerns. I'll be also bringing the spirit of champions. As y'all been watching, I've been watching the Facebook pages, how passionate about champions and competition is here. I want to continue to do that, be part of that, and be part of that community of champions. In addition, I understand, I believe the child deserves the best quality of education. Right now, it has been a tough year for everybody, parents, family members, and most important, the teachers. They have suffered dramatically. A lot of them have been playing the roles of babysitting, counseling, therapists, and all this other stuff. And some of them are not trying for it. So I really appreciate you teachers out there, because you are the bread and butter of our children. And I want to ensure that we get the best of the best teachers there for our kids. And I want to make sure that our community is open to this kind of type of teachers, because it's going to become competitive to get those good teachers here. Also, I just want to ensure that counselors are there. I cannot emphasize that portion. I'm looking forward to your vote. May 1st, I'll be expecting your vote. As a military, that's what we say. I'll be expecting you guys to support me, and I will be supporting you, and I'll be your voice. That's all I got to say. And thank you, my fellow Panthers.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, your closing remarks this evening.
Again, I would like to thank the Independent for hosting this forum, and to the voters that may be tuning in. Hopefully everybody gets to tune in to watch this tomorrow. The two biggest things that I heard today was the growth. I can't say it enough. The bond package is important. Make sure to do your research. Make sure you ask questions if you don't know. Reach out to me or any other candidate. What I've learned in just this meeting alone is I've got 2 passionate guys on each side of me. I love that about our community. The second thing is the culture. I mean, it goes hand in hand with that, right? There's people that care about this community. They care about the culture, and they want to make sure that it doesn't change with the growth. We risk that when anything grows in life, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. So it's important that we grow. And then the biggest thing is I want the community to know that I'm passionate for the kids, the teachers, the administration. We have had an excellent school board, both past and previous. I'm not trying to come on here and change anything that they've started. I'm trying to help carry that torch to the next level. I want to make sure that our kids have the opportunity to learn, lead, and succeed in anything they elect to do in their life. And it starts right here at the ground level with us at the school board and in the community of Liberty Hill. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We want to remind everybody that Election Day is May 1st, Saturday, and that early voting begins April 19th and goes for about a week. On behalf of the community, I'd like to thank all three of you gentlemen for stepping up and wanting to serve the community this way. And from the Independent, we thank you very much for participating with us this evening and putting up with our questions.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you very much. You'll have a great evening.
Yes,
You
sir.
too.
Thank you.